Okay, hello everybody. We're back out in the shop. It's a bright new morning out here, so let's get this show on the road, shall we? Meantime, I come across something on here that this is my little Ford tip of the day for these big old 460s. We used to get these in the shop every once in a while, and people are thinking there's something wrong with the carburetor. I don't blame you. These old Motorcraft, I can't think of the number. I hate these daggum things. Anyway, they fiddled with it, trying to get it to idle. Chances are, the problem's not here on the carburetor. I've seen people take these so far out of whack, it's unbelievable, trying to get them to idle. The problem's usually, believe it or not, on here. On the transmission of all places, right? Who would have thunk that? Anyway, see this line right here? This goes back to your vacuum modulator. Oh, get around here. Right here. What that is it's kind of an old school throttle positioning sensor. That's what tells the transmission where your throttle is. That's a real rough, basic way of saying it. But yeah, that was the old school throttle positioning sensor. Runs off a vacuum. And you can see, it's a hard line that comes back. Then it goes into this rubber line to connect it. They do that for vibration, because this, you know, it vibrates and moves around as the engine's running. So it isolates the vibration through these rubber lines here and here. This one comes up and around, and it goes to this funky looking little vacuum port on your intake manifold. So this is pulling manifold vacuum. What that does is, when the vacuum response drops in here, when you're getting on it and you're got the throttle up and it's pulling the vacuum away from this, it's telling the transmission, hey, we're under load here, we're needing to go, we need to shift this way or this way. It's all done off of here. Well, that vacuum line that runs off of here kind of comes around like this. This is a big heat area. All the heat off of the motors coming right here. So it kind of bakes that vacuum line right there. And it'll start to develop little cracks right in here. And you know what that means? Vacuum leak. A big vacuum leak, because this is your main vacuum area. You know, this is a crucial spot. So what it'll do is you'll develop a huge vacuum leak way back here. I've seen them to where they just rot and corrode, and that you grab a hold of that, I'll put it in my hand so you can see it. You grab a hold of this line here, you can see this one is, yeah, she'll crack just by bending it. That's from all the heat and stuff. Especially in a van where they're so covered up, it draws and pulls that heat right onto that line. And yeah, you can see there's actually a crack right there on that one. So that one is starting to have a vacuum leak. And what that does is it screws up with your idle on your carburetor. So you'll think that the problem is here. You'll take a screwdriver and you'll adjust it and you'll play with all of this stuff trying to get it to run right, when it's actually not there. It's right here. Look on the back. I don't know how many times I've come across that where it's running rough and everything, and it's because of that. Also, on these 460s, you can see down here on this end, this is where, you know, this is a C6. Let's see if I can get that turn a little bit. The vacuum module, I don't know the technique, you can look it up, but the vacuum control here goes right down into the valve body into the transmission right here. Well, there's a little pin in there that comes up and rides on this diaphragm, and it's kind of a pin needle that goes back and forth there and adjusts for the hydraulic pressure, all of that technical stuff that a transmission guy could tell you a whole lot more about. But anyway, if that diaphragm in there gets old and heat warped and everything and starts to crack, what it'll do is it'll let transmission fluid pass through there, and you'll actually start sucking transmission fluid up through there and dumping into this and this cylinder. So on these things, if you notice that they start to burn oil, they're starting to smoke and everything, and you pull this spark plug that's broke, I probably broke that when I was pulling it out of there, dadgummit. Anyway, you pull that spark plug and this spark plug, and you're getting a fouling on them, check and look at the coloration on the oil foul that's coming from it. Chances are it's not the engine. It's your vacuum control module back here on the transmission. Also, if you notice in your transmission's always getting low and the engine is smoking a little, chances are it's this guy right here letting that transmission fluid pull up through it, and it's actually dropping it down into your intake manifold where it's sucking it in, and it'll usually suck them in those two back cylinders. Little things to look for on a Ford. Now they all do it, they're just in different places, and I have a Ford here to show you on it. But yeah, on an automatic transmission, that's the old analog throttle position sensor, and that's how they allowed the transmission to communicate with the engine, or vice versa, the engine to communicate with the transmission to let it know where it needs to shift, how it needs to shift, all of that stuff. Pretty neat stuff. Nowadays that's all controlled electronically through a computer and all that stuff. They were actually doing that way back then, just with different means, and usually it was vacuum. All right, so I hope that helps somebody out there, and like I said, that Motorcraft carburetor, it is one of my least favorite carburetors of all times, but chances are that's not the problem. If she's running rough, I've come across a lot of those rubber vacuum lines that go into the steel that just corrode, and that's actually where your vacuum leak is, that's causing your Ford to run real rough and not want to idle and all that stuff. Anyway, meantime, I'm gonna, let's see, it's about time I can head up to town and try to get that engine stand to get that, start tearing that thing apart. My back gasket kit didn't come in, so I'm hoping it's gonna be in by this afternoon. But that's a little quick update from BareRose Garage and a little Ford tip. I hope it helps you out there. Meantime, keep that metal hot.